using Explain Everything to teach welding online.
All right, my name is Mark Kuchek and I teach welding here at ECC. And during the spring 2020 semester, I was able to take some of my theory and some other components of the class and put it on an app called Explain Everything. And so there's a short video of how to use Explain Everything in your SBCT program.
What I've done is uploaded a few handouts, pictures of welds, a picture of a project. I'm going to show you how I use them in my classes. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a pen. I'm going to zoom in. This is just a diagram from one of the publishers. I actually went online and used their content that comes right off of Cengage website, and I loaded it up here. And what I could do is I could take a marker and I can mark all over this. I can explain exactly what it is that I want them to learn. So this example is what we call a welding symbol, and there's a lot of information that's just scattered throughout the actual welding symbol. So that's what I would do. I was just explain what these all mean, where they belong. If I wanted to highlight some of the words, I could highlight the words in here and cover that diagram specifically. Another example would be this little blueprint here, which also came from the publisher. Sometimes I like to draw my own using a CAD program, and then I would upload it as well. And these blueprints here are actually found in their textbook, and it's also a workbook. And so there would be a picture of a blueprint, and then there'd be a series of questions. So what I like to do is have them go through the questions, and then I just make a short video of how to find those answers. So really it's just an answer key, but it's a kind of like a video answer key. And so there'll be a series of questions, and maybe I'll zoom in and say, oh, in view X, they asked you what types of welds there were. And I could say there are two separate welding symbols. One is a fillet weld, arrow side, flat contour with planishing, 1/4 inch in size. And then this is a double fillet weld, 1/8 inch size, so on and so forth. And I can explain what all of this means and then go through a series of questions. Another thing I like to do is sometimes make my own videos. So this is a video of another blueprint, but I made the video ahead of time, and then I just loaded it in here, and then all I gotta do is press play and it'll continue to record it. So here goes. Here's just a quick preview of how I use the tablet and the camera on it to go over a homework assignment. So I can just take my handout and start to write all over. I can use the voice, the sound that I'm making now, or I could actually use Explain Everything and just do a voiceover if I wanted to. You could use really any type of camera, GoPro, phone, tablet, even a document camera. If you have one in your classroom, you can save that file and send it to Explain Everything. Another great tool is math. So this actually comes from the book, and I can go ahead and use a pencil and change that into a pencil. It's a 2B pencil, and I can start to work out a math problem. So we're looking at dimensions here and then tolerances. So what's the maximum and minimum amounts. So we can do 8 plus or minus 1/16. So this is obviously going to be 8 and 1/16, and 7 and 15/16. Works great for math problems like that. But another feature is what they call new equation. I'm going to go ahead and move this over here. And so if you teach math, or really just any type of applied math, you can add just about any equation you can imagine. Let me go ahead and make that larger so you can see what I'm adding here. I'm just hitting all the different buttons. Limits, the list really goes on and on. So you can add whatever you want. Obviously your numbers, equals, and then whatever it is. So it's really math friendly. All right, to continue on, I'm going to take a look at a picture of a weldment. And so now I can show my students pictures of welds before they actually make the project. They can't necessarily practice welding, the hands-on part of it, but they can see good and bad prior to making their weld, so they can kind of go into it knowing what to expect and what to look for. So again, here I have a picture of a weld. Let me go ahead and darken this a little bit. So I have a picture of a weld, and this is a MIG surfacing weld, and I could tell them, what settings. So we're on DC positive, 18 volts, 225 inches per minute. For wire feed speed, we're using 75% argon and 25% CO2. And I can run through everything prior, and then I can actually kind of show them the technique. So the technique for this is to do these little circles, which helps spread out the weld metal. And then we're looking for those to overlap a little bit each pass. Okay, so I can show them all that, which is all good stuff. And then if I wanted to, I could point out some things that maybe I don't like. So maybe the spacing in here between some of these welds is too much. Maybe they need to tighten them up. Or you can see that there's these little dots all over the place. We call that spatter. So I could point that out and say, the spatter's a little bit excessive in this example. So what we could do is drop your voltage from 18 to maybe 17.5. So again, I can kind of show them the good, the bad, and the ugly with each of these welds prior to them actually making them. I think the last thing I loaded up here is a picture of a project that they make an advanced blueprint reading. And they are provided a blueprint, which I did not load up here. And they have to read the blueprint, and then they cut all the pieces out. So here is some of the pieces, 3 on the back. This is the top looking down. This one runs under there. So they would have to cut and fabricate all these pieces out, and then they have to read the weld symbols, and they have to make the welds to the proper specs, sizes, shape, all of that good stuff. And here would be, a bunch of pictures of a completed weldment, and so they can go ahead and use these short video clips to guide the process. All right, to wrap it up, a couple things I want to mention. This was the old symbol. That's what it looks like on my iPad, but I believe it is actually let me make this a little thicker. I believe it is a cursive E, and I believe it's around $13.99 for the actual app. I've used it for probably about 3 years now, and I definitely believe I've gotten my $13.99 out of it. It's just been fantastic. If anybody has any questions, you can feel free to email me at mhuchek@elgin.edu, and I would be more than happy to help you in any way I can. Again, I'm no expert at this, but can kind of get by with what I got. And the last thing I want to mention, and I'll write something down here, is that I save all my videos on YouTube, and there are 3 ways to save them. You can be private, public, and unlisted. And so I choose to do everything as unlisted, and the only way my students can see it is if they log into D2L they click on the actual link and then it'll actually take them to the video. Private means that they have to have a YouTube account, and then public is the ones that you just Google up videos and it takes you to YouTube and anybody can see them. You can do that route as well, but I don't really care for anybody else to see my videos except for my students. So hopefully that's just a quick rundown of explain everything, and I hope you take something away from it. So again, explain everything.